In this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly do dynamic targets. The first thing that you have to do is create a dynamic target. And what I did is you go under target manager and then you create dynamic target. When you create the dynamic target, it actually opens up a new animation here. So I'm going to delete that so you can see it. So initially you have the robot and the focus. So you can think of a dynamic target as a new animation which has X, Y, Z, and then it also has rotation. You probably don't need to rotate that unless you just want to do the animation of it. And what happens is that you will think of, once you have this guy, you can begin to add keyframes for it. And the way you do keyframes for it is we have two things. So the one thing is you can be pointing the camera on the object that you would want to, where you want to add keyframes on that. So for example, it could be here. So this is my focus, this is my camera orientation, then you know the target is going to be somewhere along here. So I could actually add keyframe, I could add target keyframe from focus, right? Alternatively, I could click T and then it will add that. So this is the first target keyframe. Then you can move, for example, 10 seconds down and you come like this, maybe up, maybe to the right. And now let's see the distance is here, so I could add the other target keyframe and then I'm gonna click T. So what happened here is that you see how that is actually, so it's not showing. Okay, so this is the dynamic target. Okay, so this is just looking only at the dynamic target. And now we created this dynamic target, and you see that how the dynamic target moves from this point to this point. Now this dynamic target doesn't necessarily have to be an object. It could simply be where you would like the camera to be pointing at, in this case where this guy is essentially pointing. So we have this target. You could then manually move it up or down, so you see as it actually moves how it actually travels. Or it could be like that. You could kind of modify that. But again, if you want to capture the two endpoints or even more than two endpoints, is you can simply add a keyframe for the target, right? And if you click S, you always add keyframe on that target. So I could actually go up a little bit, so the target will come up and then come down, right? Based on what I just did here. So what we're planning to do is we're planning to plot the path of the target. So this is going to be coming in a new build. All right, so now you have the target and then you have the robot, right? So the robot is not moving anywhere. So the target is moving, but the robot is not. So I could add some robot keyframes. So let's say the robot starts here. Then you go, notice that you cannot track a dynamic target. There are no targets here, right? You can only track a dynamic target from the timeline, right? So you would have to simply position the camera anywhere you want. Anyway, when we make the camera follow the dynamic target, it will actually update the path. So let's do this. I'm gonna add another keyframe. So this is the robot, right? So the robot is actually, let's just split view. The robot is not really looking at the target, right? If you want the robot to actually be looking at that, then you simply click on the first keyframe, free tracking, dynamic target. So when you do that, and like we explained to you guys, so this will track the target from the first keyframe to the second robot keyframe, right? So from the first to the second, we're actually looking at the target, and then here we lose it. So we can come back and then set it up. So each time you set this up, you basically can track the target from that keyframe to the next one, from the keyframe where you actually adjust the menu. Okay, so here the robot stops, but the target can keep moving, right? So because we don't have any other keyframes for the robot. I could actually choose to do that, and then I could add dynamic target, but nothing will happen for the robot. But if I add a keyframe, it will actually track it, right? If I delete that keyframe, or if I actually, you notice as I actually move this, right, I'm changing. So no matter how I do this, the robot is always looking at the dynamic target. Why? Because all the points after this keyframes, after this particular keyframe, are meant to track this dynamic target. So if you combine this with adding slopes, then you're gonna be able to make some really, really cool moves. One thing I want to let you know, guys, is that one of the nice abilities that you could do with our software is you could basically add focus so the focus itself. So let's solid the focus. So I'm click shift and then fizz, and then that's your focus. So I could add focus keyframe simply by clicking F, and I can also track a dynamic target with my focus. As a matter of fact, you could track multiple targets. So the camera could be looking at a target, and then you could have another target. Let's actually add another target somewhere behind this guy. So I just added target right after this guy, right? And I'm gonna change the color, make it pink. Here we go. So as I move a little bit, you see the other target appears behind. So what I could do is I could set the focus to be looking at the other one, right? Static target, which could be anything, but I can show here. So both the dynamic and static targets actually appear here. So now, even though your camera is looking at the green ball, every time the pink ball appears, it will be tracked. So it will not be tracked here, right? Because we said if you select the property of this keyframe to be tracking the pink ball, then it will only track it from here to here, right? So notice as I'm moving this focus, it actually builds itself because it's automated, right? But from this point to this point, it's not, right? I can move that. That's, you know, by poly, basically by poly curve, polynomial curve, right? But if you do, okay, I have to click shift here to be able to do that. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so here the target will be, the focus will be always looking at the pink ball, and you know, every time it appears, right? So this is just like a random move that. I hope this helps, and you know, any other questions, we're always happy to help you guys. Let us know if you need any other if you have any other questions.